Alright guys, so we've been talking a lot about dividing fractions and why we divide fractions, what it looks like, and trying to make sense of it. And I just want to go over a skill that you probably learned last year, multiplying fractions. And multiplying fractions is not a 6th grade standard. However, you are asked to do it occasionally, and you are expected to know what it is. So I just want to briefly go over multiplying fractions, but more importantly, I would like to go over what multiplying fractions means. Why do we do it? And like I've been telling you, it's really important to understand why we do the math that we do. Not just because that's the way I was taught, that's the way I was told, really trying to understand what does it mean. So I'm going to go over multiplying fractions, and I am going to build some models for you just so you get the idea of why we are doing what we are doing. I'm going to start off with some simpler examples, and then we'll go on to the harder examples, like always. So here is example 1. And example 1 is 1/4 times 1/3. And if you remember what you were taught before, when you multiply fractions, you multiply straight across. You multiply the 1 times the 1, which is 1, and the 4 times the 3, which is 12, for an answer of 1/12. Why? All right, so here's my question. Why do we multiply fractions? And the answer is to see how many pieces of a piece we get. To see how many pieces of a piece we get. So here's my picture that I'm going to show you for 1/4 times 1/3. Now what I want you to notice is that 1/12 is a much smaller number than 1/4 and 1/3. Okay? 1/12 of a pizza is much smaller than 1/3 of a pizza or 1/4 of a pizza. And remember, as our denominators get larger, our pieces get smaller. When we divide fractions, we want to know how many pieces there are, or how many pieces we get. And with fractions, we're kind of doing the same thing in a way. So let me show you my first picture for 1/4 times 1/3. So I'm going to start out with my bar model. And of course, I'll be using colors to make it a little bit easier for you to understand. And I am going to draw a hole, and I'm going to divide that hole into 1/4, or 4 pieces. And remember, I'm going to concentrate only on 1/4 because that's what this number says. Just 1/4 is what I will be focusing on at the end. Then I have 1/3. What it's asking me is how many or how much do I get when I have 1/3 pieces inside a whole that are 4 pieces. Let me show you. So I'm going to take my 1/3 because that's my denominator, and I'm going to place 3's into each of these 1/4s. Each of these 1/4 now has 3 pieces. So the first question is, how many pieces are there total? There should be 12. If I have 4 to start out with and 3 in each box, I have a total of 12 pieces. Then it wants to know, well, what is one of those pieces? So I'm going to highlight one of those pieces. Inside just 1/4. So I go back to looking only at that 1/4 piece. And what is that piece worth? It is 1/12. If I were to ask, what is 1/4 times 2/3? It would still be the 12 pieces, but I would highlight 2 of those in one of those boxes, and I would get 2/12, which is now 1/6 of a whole. And I can show you why it's 1/6. 2, 2, 2, there's 3, 2, 2, 2. These green pieces right here, 1/6, 1/6, 1/6. 2/3. 2/12, I'm sorry, is 1/6. If my problem changes, I'm still only using 1/4 of those boxes. All right, let's do another one so I can help you understand. Example 2. The question is 2, so we're going to start with the whole number, times 1/4. We'll go back to 1/4 because 4ths are kind of easy to use. 2 times 1/4. And if we were to multiply this just straight across, we would put a 1 under our 2. 2 times 1 is 2. 1 times 4 is 4. If I simplify it, I get 1/2. Now we're going to prove that is true. So I'm going to draw 2 boxes, and they can be underneath each other, they can be next to each other, it doesn't matter, as long as you know that this is 1 and this is 2. And of course, I'm going to put it into 4ths. It's asking me to take 2 of these boxes and find out what highlight 1/4 of each box. So I have 1/4 in this 2, and I have 1/4 in this 2, and those 1/4 together are worth 2/4, which is the same as 1/2. If I were to put these two next to each other in just one model, you would see that it was half. All right. Now we're going to step it up a little bit. I'm going to try example 3. And I just want you to see that our answer is always going to be smaller than what we started with. Always smaller than what we started with. Let me write that down. What we get When we multiply, it's called a product. What we get is smaller than what we started with when we multiply fractions. Okay, question number 3. We are going to do 1/3 times 1/4. So I'm going to start again with a box that has 3 pieces. That's what it's telling me. I'm going to focus on only that 1/3 box at the end. But it wants to know how many 1/4 pieces are in that 1/3 box. I don't have pieces of 4. It wants to know how many pieces of 4 are in this 1/3. So I have to put all of these 3 boxes into fourths. 1, 2, 3, 4. I have to do it for the whole thing. How many pieces does this all have now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I have 12 pieces. And it wants to know how many 1/4 are in this whole thing. Out of the 1/3, I only have 1/4, which means I have 1 out of 12 pieces. Oh my gosh, that's the same as the first problem we did. I just did it backwards. I didn't even realize that. So if you go up here, I did 1/4 times 1/3, and we got the same thing. Oh my gosh, I didn't even realize that. We just did it differently. Same answer. That was my mistake, but I'm going to show you another one. All right. Example 4. I know, you're so excited. Here we go. We'll step it up a notch really this time. I'm going to multiply 1/6 by 2/5. Oh boy, we're starting to get big. So I'm going to make a hole. Make my hole kind of big because I know that I'm going to have a large number. And I'm going to turn this hole into 6 pieces. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And out of this hole, I'm going to concentrate only on this 1/6. It wants to know how many 2/5 are in this 1/6. So I have to make this, each of these, have 5 pieces. How many pieces do I have total now? I have 30 pieces. And now it wants me to focus on 2 of those. Two of those out of the 30 pieces. And if I simplify it, it's going to give me 1/15 because I divided the 2 by 2 and the 30 by 2. And if I were to show you 1/15, I would group all of these 2's and eventually I would get 15. And you don't have to do this because it's going to take a long time, but I'm just going to show you what it looks like. And if I were to group all the 2's, eventually you would see that I have 15 groups. How many so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. One of the 15 groups. And if you were to multiply this straight across, you get 2 out of 30, which is the same as 1 over 15. Those of you who know how to cross cancel will also see that 2 and 6 are divisible. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 6 3 times. 1 times 1 is 1, 3 times 5 is 15. Example 5. We are going to do, which one stumped me when I was doing this? We're going to do 5 6 times 2/3. Alright, so let's go ahead and figure out what our answer is going to be, and then we'll be able to prove it with the drawing. So 5 times 2 is 10, 6 times 3 is 18. If I divide them both by 2, I get 5 over 9. Again with my model. I'm going to make sixths. And I'm going to focus on 5 of those 6. And I want pieces of 3. If I have 3 in each of these 6 boxes, I have 18. And I'm concentrating on 5 out of the 6 boxes now, not just one box. So I'm looking for 2 pieces of 3 in each of the 1/6 box. So I have 2 here and 2 here, 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 and finally 2 here and 2 there. I don't even need this box, this 6/6 box, because I'm only focused on this 5/6. So how many of these did I highlight? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I highlighted 10 out of the total of 18. Which is 5 over 9. So I do have a smaller piece of what I started with. Example 6. 3/4 times 3/4. I'm going to start with my 1. And if you don't know how to draw models by the end of this, I don't know what to tell you. Alright, I'm going to draw a 4th. And I'm going to focus only on 3 of those 4ths. And it wants to put 4 pieces into every box. That's what this number tells me. So I cut these up into 4 pieces. How many pieces do I have total? I have 16. Now it wants 3 out of each of those 4 pieces. How many are highlighted? 3, 6, 9. 9 out of the 16, which is the same as 3 times 3 and 4 times 4. 9/16. So I hope you have a little bit of a better understanding of why we multiply fractions and what it looks like when we do it. What does it mean? We're always getting a smaller number than what we started with because we're taking pieces of pieces. Pieces of pieces. So what I end up with is these 9/16 of the 3/4. Just wanted to go over that with you. Please make sure that you understand how to multiply fractions because you will need it for your next assignment. Goodbye.